Have you ever felt like the way you think doesn't quite align with what the world expects of you? Perhaps you've been urged to be more logical while your instincts pull you toward emotion. Or maybe you've been labeled too sensitive when you find meaning in places others see none. Right now, whether you're aware of it or not, your mind is functioning in a distinct way. A way that defines how you think, make decisions, and interact with the world around you. Jung argued that each individual falls into one of four core personality types: thinkers, the rational minds, ruled by cold logic and structured reasoning; feelers, the emotional beings, driven by values, relationships, and deeper meaning; sensors, the realists, anchored in tangible facts and present reality; intuitives, the visionaries, always searching for hidden patterns and future possibilities. You might think you know which category you belong to, but what if the type you've been living under isn't your true nature? Reflect on this. Since childhood, you've been conditioned to think in a particular way. Your parents, teachers, society, they all shaped your behaviors, encouraging some and discouraging others. If you were logical, perhaps you were told to connect more with your emotions. If you were emotional, maybe you were scolded for being too sensitive. If your thoughts lived in the realm of dreams, maybe you were called a dreamer. And if you focused on details, perhaps you were labeled too rigid. From the moment you entered this world, you were being molded to meet an expectation. But here's the deeper question. What if that expectation was never truly yours? Jung believed that most people never challenge the lens through which they see reality. They take their perspective for granted, assuming it's the only valid one. But understanding your dominant function is more than just an exercise in self-awareness. It's about unlocking power. The moment you understand your mind, you begin to take control of your life. However, here's the part no one tells you. Your dominant personality function isn't the only element that shapes who you are. Beneath the surface, in the depths of your unconscious, lies something even more important. Something that may explain why, at times, you felt as if something crucial was missing. Because understanding how you think is only part of the puzzle, but uncovering what you've been ignoring all these years, that's where true transformation begins. So let's start this journey. Which type are you? Because whether you realize it or not, it has already shaped everything about you. Before we delve deeper into the four core personality functions, let's explore something even more fundamental, something that defines how we interact with the world. Jung identified two primary attitudes that govern how we direct our mental energy: introversion, the inward focus; introspection, contemplation, and deep thought; extroversion, the outward orientation, social interaction, external stimulation, and engagement with the world. Most people assume that introversion means being shy and reserved, while extroversion means being loud and outgoing. But this is a misconception. An introvert can be highly confident, but they recharge in solitude, processing thoughts internally. An extrovert can cherish moments of solitude, but they draw energy from engaging with the external world. Jung believed neither attitude is superior to the other. They are simply different ways of experiencing reality. However, here's where things get even more intriguing. Your personality is not defined solely by introversion or extroversion. These two attitudes serve as the gateway to something far deeper: the four primary ways in which we process reality, the four personality functions. Jung discovered that every person has a dominant way of interpreting the world. He distilled this into four distinct functions. Thinking, the function of logic and analysis. Thinkers prioritize structure, problem solving, and objective truth. Feeling, the function of values and emotions. Feelers are driven by relationships, harmony, and moral convictions. Sensation, the function of tangible reality. Sensors trust their senses, relying on concrete facts and present experiences. Intuition, the function of abstract meaning. Intuitives look beyond the present, seeking hidden patterns and future possibilities. Each of us has a dominant function, and that function deeply influences how we perceive the world. But the question remains, do you truly know which function is yours? Or have you been living in a way that suppresses it? If you've been living outside your true function, your life may feel more draining than it needs to be. Decisions might feel forced. Your interactions might seem unnatural. But once you uncover your dominant function, everything starts to click. You begin to understand why you think the way you do, why some things drain you, and why others make you feel alive. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Jung believed that most people never fully grasp their dominant function because society pressures them to be something they're not. But by recognizing how you process the world, you can gain greater clarity in your decisions, relationships, and personal growth. Jung's theory of personality extends beyond just the four fundamental functions: thinking, feeling, sensation, and intuition. Each of these in turn can manifest in two distinct forms: outwardly, focused on the external world, or extroversion, or inwardly, focused on introspection, or introversion. This duality gives rise to 8 unique personality types, each possessing its own distinct manner of processing reality. Grasping these types isn't merely an act of self-identification. It's about recognizing how these unconscious forces have shaped your being, often without your awareness. Take, for example, those who operate predominantly through extroverted thinking. These individuals are driven by structure, efficiency, and measurable outcomes. Their minds function like engineers, designing perfect systems where everything follows a logical and orderly sequence. They lean heavily on facts, making decisions rooted in concrete data, favoring proven methods over personal emotions. Yet in their pursuit of efficiency, they may dismiss the significance of emotions, viewing them as mere distractions rather than vital aspects of the human experience. Their strength lies in their ability to craft systems that work, but their flaw is the inability to recognize the human cost of those very systems. Conversely, there are those who navigate life through introverted thinking. Here, logic is internalized, examined with great depth. These thinkers don't just follow the rules, they deconstruct them, dismantling every assumption until only the purest form of truth remains. Unlike their extroverted counterparts, their focus isn't on organizing the external world, but on refining their internal framework of knowledge. They may spend hours immersed in thought, perfecting their understanding of a concept before uttering a single word. While this grants them the ability to solve complex problems, it often isolates them, lost in thought, struggling to bring their insights into the practical realm. Then there are those who lead with extroverted feeling, people for whom connection, harmony, and emotional balance are paramount. Their ability to sense the emotional atmosphere of a room is almost instinctive, detecting subtle shifts before others even notice. They adapt seamlessly to social norms, intuitively knowing just what to say to make others feel understood and validated. But this deep well of empathy comes with its price. They often lose themselves in the emotions of others, neglecting their own needs in a tireless effort to maintain peace. They thrive in environments where emotional intelligence is prized, yet when placed in situations demanding cold logic, they may feel disoriented, as if stripped of their natural strength. In contrast, introverted feeling types reject external validation. They are guided by an internal moral compass, making decisions based on what feels profoundly right rather than what is socially acceptable. While the extroverted feeler adjusts to the world, the introverted feeler stands firm, unwilling to betray their innermost values. They create art, movements, and philosophies founded on personal truth, but their intense sense of conviction can also alienate them. If their values diverge too far from the mainstream, they may struggle to express themselves, as if living in a world that fails to comprehend their essence. Beyond thinking and feeling, some experience the world primarily through extroverted sensation. These are the realists, the doers, rooted firmly in the present moment. They don't speculate about life, they live it. Every color, texture, taste, and sound is absorbed in high-definition clarity. They excel in dynamic environments where their quick reflexes provide a distinct advantage. However, this intense focus on the present moment can hinder long-term planning. They may chase after one thrill after another, never pausing to reflect on the bigger picture or their ultimate direction. On the opposite end of the spectrum, introverted sensation types rely on personal memories and past experiences to process the world. They hold fast to what is familiar, tested, and proven. Their minds function like vast archives, recalling details others overlook. They find comfort in tradition, structure, and the tried and true. But while their reliability is unparalleled, they often resist change, clinging to the past even as the world moves forward. Then there are those who are driven by extroverted intuition, visionaries who don't live in the present, but in the realm of possibility. Where others see what is, they envision what could be. Their minds are flooded with ideas, and they thrive on exploration, invention, and discovering new connections. Their energy is boundless, hopping from one concept to the next with relentless curiosity. But this constant flux can lead to chaos, leaving many projects unfinished as new ideas draw them away in different directions. Their challenge is learning to ground their lofty visions in reality. Finally, introverted intuition operates as a quiet, smoldering fire, intense and deeply insightful. These individuals experience sudden flashes of understanding, as if the answers appear out of nowhere. Yet in truth, they have been subconsciously processing patterns over time. They don't just observe the world as it is, they intuitively sense where it is headed. Their insights can seem almost prophetic, as though they know things before they unfold. But because their thought process is so internal, they often struggle to articulate how they arrived at their conclusions, leaving others in either awe or confusion. Each of these 8 types represents a unique way of engaging with the world, yet no one fits neatly into just one category. Jung posited that every individual has a dominant function, the one we rely on most. But alongside it, there are weaker functions that quietly operate in the background. Now here's where it gets intriguing. Our weakest function, the one we suppress, holds the key to balance. It's not our dominant type that causes most of our struggles, but rather the parts of ourselves we've neglected. The question then isn't simply about identifying your type. Our personality isn't confined to a single function. It's a hierarchy of mental processes, each working together in a delicate balance. Some functions take the lead, shaping how we think and interact with the world. Others operate more subtly, influencing us behind the scenes. And then there's the function we barely notice, the one buried so deeply in our unconscious that, if left unchecked, it becomes our greatest vulnerability. Jung believed that each person has a dominant function, the one they naturally gravitate toward most. Think of it as the protagonist of your psyche, the part of you that feels most you. A thinker gravitates toward logic and structure. A feeler navigates life through emotions and values. A sensor trusts what is tangible and real. An intuitive is drawn to possibilities that lie beyond the immediate. This dominant function shapes the core lens through which we experience the world, developing early in life. But no one is defined by a single function alone. If your dominant function is the protagonist of your mind, then the auxiliary function serves as the supporting character, adding depth and balance. For instance, a person with dominant thinking might have feeling as their auxiliary function, helping them stay connected to their emotions when logic falls short. Similarly, someone who leads with intuition might rely on sensation to stay grounded in reality. While the dominant function always takes charge, the auxiliary is vital for making you a more adaptable and well-rounded person. Then there's the tertiary function, a process operating in the background, occasionally making an appearance but never fully developed. Some people tap into their tertiary function as they mature, while others scarcely recognize its influence. For example, a strong-willed extroverted thinker might have a tertiary intuition, sparking moments of creativity and insight. However, because intuition isn't their primary mode of operation, it remains underdeveloped, surfacing only in particular circumstances. And deep within the recesses of the unconscious lies the inferior function, the aspect of yourself that is the hardest to understand, yet the one holding the greatest potential for growth. The inferior function is like a shadow. It resists control, operates unpredictably, and often reveals itself under stress or emotional turmoil. For instance, an extroverted sensor may find themselves challenged by introverted intuition, struggling with abstract ideas or long-term visions. Similarly, a dominant thinker may find feeling overwhelming, making emotionally charged situations difficult to navigate. Here's where it becomes fascinating. While the inferior function may feel like a weakness, it also holds the key to your personal development. Jung believed that true individuation, the process of becoming whole, requires integrating the neglected parts of ourselves. This integration is often uncomfortable. Our minds naturally resist it. It's unsettling to step outside our dominant way of thinking. A highly logical person might feel uneasy exploring emotions. A deeply emotional person may shy away from confronting cold, hard logic. Yet if you ignore your weaker functions, you risk becoming trapped in a rigid, one-dimensional version of yourself. Consider your own life. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where your usual approach didn't work? Maybe you're a strong intuitive, constantly absorbed in abstract ideas, but when it comes to dealing with practical details, you freeze. Or perhaps you're a structured thinker, but when emotional sensitivity is required, you feel out of your depth. These frustrations aren't just happenstance. They are signs that your neglected functions are demanding attention. So what does this mean for personal growth? It means that developing the functions outside your comfort zone is one of the most transformative things you can do. If you're a dominant feeler, practicing logical reasoning can restore balance. If you're a strong thinker, allowing yourself to be vulnerable and emotionally open can forge deeper connections. If you rely on sensation, embracing abstract thought can expand your perspective. And if you're an intuitive, grounding yourself in the present helps bring your ideas into reality. Jung didn't advocate for changing who you are. Instead, he believed in expanding who you are. Your dominant function will always be your strength. But the key to true psychological growth lies in integrating the parts of yourself you've ignored. Because the more balanced you become, the more fully you will realize your truest self. Much of who we are exists beneath the surface, hidden from the light of our conscious awareness. We like to believe that we truly understand ourselves, that our thoughts, choices, and behaviors are entirely under our control. Yet Jung warned us that this belief is but an illusion. Behind every decision, every reaction, every fear, and every impulse lies something deeper, the unconscious mind, shaping us in ways we cannot yet comprehend. Jung proposed that within this concealed realm resides the shadow, the aspect of ourselves that we suppress, ignore, or outright deny. It consists of all that we've been conditioned to push away: anger, jealousy, selfishness, vulnerability. Not because these traits don't exist within us, but because we've been taught to reject them. A child who's told to always be kind learns to suppress their anger. Someone who's shamed for showing emotion comes to see vulnerability as a flaw. Over time, these rejected parts of us don't vanish. They sink into the unconscious, exerting influence from the shadows. But the shadow doesn't stay dormant forever. It seeps out in unexpected ways, through sudden outbursts of anger, cycles of self-sabotage, or an inexplicable dislike for others who mirror what we refuse to acknowledge in ourselves. The more we turn a blind eye, the stronger its grip becomes. Jung didn't view the shadow as something to fear, but as a crucial key to self-awareness. The goal isn't to banish it, but to understand it, to bring it into the light of consciousness and integrate it into our sense of self. For when we stop running from the parts of ourselves we loathe, we gain something priceless: wholeness. Recognizing the unconscious forces that mold our personality allows us to break free from patterns we never knew were ruling us. And in that newfound awareness, true self-understanding begins. Jung's theory of personality types is not some abstract idea. It's a powerful tool that, when wielded properly, can transform how we engage with relationships, career paths, and personal growth. Most of the friction, frustration, and misunderstanding we encounter arises not because people are inherently difficult, but because they process reality in fundamentally different ways. Recognizing these differences is often the key to unlocking better communication, sharper decision-making, and a more fulfilling existence. Take relationships, for instance. A thinking type and a feeling type are often at odds. One emphasizes logic, while the other craves emotional connection. The thinker might dismiss emotions as illogical, while the feeler may see the thinker as cold or distant. Yet once they understand their contrasting approaches, they can meet halfway. The thinker learns that emotions possess their own kind of intelligence, while the feeler understands that logic is not a rejection of emotion. It's simply another way of navigating the world. In the realm of careers, Knowing your dominant function can make the difference between feeling trapped in an unsatisfying job and thriving in an environment that resonates with your strengths. An extroverted sensor, for instance, would struggle in a job that's slow and theoretical, one requiring constant introspection. However, they'd excel in a fast-paced, hands-on environment where quick decisions are the norm. Meanwhile, an introverted intuitive might feel drained in a role that demands constant social interaction, but would thrive in a position that allows for deep thought and strategic planning. Problem solving also varies greatly depending on one's type. Extroverted thinkers break problems into manageable steps and lean on external data, while introverted thinkers turn inward, carefully analyzing every angle before making a decision. Intuitives seek patterns and abstract solutions, often thinking ahead of their time, while sensors focus on practical, immediate results. Recognizing these tendencies not only boosts individual effectiveness, but also enhances teamwork. Instead of feeling frustrated by different approaches, people can appreciate the unique strengths that others bring to the table. Self-awareness is a mighty tool. Once you understand how you think, how you learn, and how you communicate, you stop trying to force yourself into roles that don't suit you. You stop resenting others for being different. And most importantly, you begin navigating life in a way that feels authentic, because you're no longer working against your own mind. Jung's theory of personality has influenced everything from modern psychology to career assessments. However, over time, many of his ideas have been oversimplified, distorted, or misinterpreted. One of the greatest misconceptions is that these personality types are rigid categories that define who we are and what we are capable of. In truth, Jung viewed them as fluid psychological tendencies, not rigid labels that confine us to a single way of thinking. A common misunderstanding is the belief that we are only one type, either a thinker or a feeler, a sensor or an intuitive. But in Jung's framework, everyone has access to all four functions, just in varying degrees of preference. Your dominant function may steer your decisions, but your auxiliary, tertiary, and even inferior functions still play an important role. Dismissing them completely results in an imbalanced sense of self, leading people to believe they can never improve in areas where they struggle. Another key point of confusion arises with the popular MBTI, Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, which, though inspired by Jung's work, strays far from his original model. The MBTI categorizes people into 16 types using four-letter codes, e.g. INTJ, ESFP, implying that personalities are fixed and unchanging. Yet Jung never intended his typology to be a rigid classification. He viewed personality as a lifelong journey, what he called individuation, where we gradually integrate different facets of ourselves over time. Many mistakenly assume that introversion and extroversion in Jung's model simply equate to shyness and outgoingness. But for Jung, these terms referred not to social behavior, but to where a person directs their mental energy, internally or externally. An introverted thinker may still enjoy socializing, just as an extroverted feeler might need solitude to process emotions. To truly understand Jung's theories, we must see them as he intended, far beyond the oversimplified modern adaptations. This approach provides us with a more accurate and useful framework, not only for identifying personality types, but for exploring the deeper workings of the human mind. Who are you, really? Not the version of yourself molded by external expectations. Not the role you play in society, but the person that lies beneath it all. Jung believed that most people never fully become themselves. Instead, they spend their lives identifying with just one part of their psyche, rejecting everything that doesn't fit their idea of who they should be. Individuation is the process of undoing that, a journey of integrating all aspects of yourself to become whole. Unlike many psychological models that focus on fixing specific traits, individuation isn't about self-improvement. It's about self-realization. It demands confronting the parts of yourself you've neglected, whether that's your suppressed emotions, forgotten creativity, or ambition you've been told is dangerous. Nietzsche echoed this sentiment when he spoke of becoming who you are, emphasizing that growth isn't about conforming to an ideal, but embracing your inner contradictions, strength and vulnerability, logic and emotion, discipline and spontaneity. None of these are opposites. They are pieces of a larger whole. This journey is not easy. The mind resists change, And society often rewards those who neatly fit into predefined categories. But individuation isn't about pleasing others. It's about attaining inner harmony. A person who has undergone this process doesn't simply act logically or emotionally. They know when to rely on each. They don't just follow structure or intuition. They understand the value of both. They are not confined to a single role. They move freely between different aspects of themselves as needed. Most people live fragmented lives, disconnected from parts of themselves they've never learned to accept. But those who complete the journey of individuation reach something rare, a state of inner clarity, where thoughts, emotions, and actions align. Not because they are perfect, but because they are real. As Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Most will never reach that point. They live by expectations, suppress their instincts, and ignore the deeper forces that shape their lives. But individuation is not reserved for philosophers or psychologists. It is a path open to anyone willing to look inward. If this video has made you question how you think, feel, or process the world, that's a sign that you've already begun the journey. But self-understanding is an ongoing process. And if you want to go deeper, I encourage you to keep exploring. Read Jung's psychological types, Nietzsche's Thus Spoke Zarathustra, or even Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, to see how other thinkers approach self-discovery. And if you found value in this discussion, consider subscribing. These ideas are just the beginning. There is so much more to uncover. We began this journey by asking a simple question: who are you? But as we've seen, the answer is anything but simple. Your personality is not just one function, one way of thinking, or one rigid category. It's a complex interplay of strengths, weaknesses, and hidden aspects, waiting to be uncovered. Jung's work reminds us that growth isn't about choosing between logic or emotion, intuition or structure. It's about learning to integrate every part of yourself, the known and the unknown, the conscious and the unconscious. Individuation is not about becoming someone new. It's about finally accepting the person you've always been beneath the surface. So I leave you with one final question. Which aspect of your personality will you explore next?